Hello, welcome once more. We're going to continue where we left off with our Georgian style house. Let's get straight into it, shall we? So here we left off, and what I wanted to do was add some of those classic beams, wooden beams, and we can do that. There's a few ways. You could just make individual cubes, make them rectangles, and line them up individually like that, or there's a much quicker way of doing it, which is going to involve us using our first modifier. So if you tab into edit mode on our house, and we want to select this outer line all the way down. And remember, if I press shift select, it's just selecting the ones I'm picking, but I want it to go from here all the way down. And by pressing control select, it's picking the quickest way to the point you've selected. So if I was to go straight for this point here, and I'm hoping it will go, but that won't be the quickest way. The quickest way, apparently, is to do that. So I've got to do it in bits. So if I control click to there, then to there, and to there, and then finally to there, I've got that whole thing. And again, I want to separate that from this house. So I press Shift D, don't move it, just press Enter, then press P to separate, and separate the selection. So now, if I click here, I now have just this edge. That's all this is just an edge. It wouldn't render. It's just points in space to reference. But we can make it something physical by using our first modifier. So the modifiers panel are over here, this wrench icon. And you'll use a lot of modifiers. We haven't had a need for them yet, but now we have a use for one. And these modifiers will apply to everything. If I select this, I can add the modifiers to this. If I select the roof, I can add modifiers to that. But in this instance, we're just adding it to, when I get him, there he is. I'm just adding one to this. And the one we're going to use is called skin. So it effectively skins an edge and makes geometry from nowhere. So it's just following what I've selected. This is sometimes temperamental, but in this instance it works fine, and I'm happy about that. But solid skin doesn't always give you the best results, but I'll use it because it works here. So it should work for you. So I've now got this 3D beam shape. It's a bit fat and a bit weird and a bit wonky. So what I need to do is scale that down. But you can't, if you press S in this instance, it's going to scale the whole thing. So we don't want that. If I tab into edit mode, you can't see anything. If you go into Xray mode, this one here, you can now see the edge in the middle of our thing. So if I pressed A and selected all these and tried to press S to scale those down, again, it's going to do the same thing. So when you've got this, you've skinned something, you have to press Control A. So select all the edges or vertices you want, press Control A, and then by moving the mouse, you can see, if I get out of Xray mode, which is Alt Z, by the way, for the shortcut. So now I know I've got them all selected. If I press Control A, now I can scale it down, and then it starts to look a little less weird. And actually, we can use a second modifier here. I could just Shift or Alt D, because it's not going to be different, and move it on the X and try and position it. That's one way of doing it. I could duplicate it, but it means manually lining it up. But there's a quicker way of doing that. So, and actually that's a good point to talk about origins. So I don't think I've got mine on. In this menu, oh, I have. You need this on, origins. And origin is the central point, or at least what the computer tells it is the central point, or the point at which all measurements start for that object. So if we look at this big cube, that is its origin. This little orange dot is the origin. So if I rotate it, it's going to rotate, as you see, from the origin. If I scale it, it's going to scale from the origin. So the origin is very important. If we look at the roof, I don't see where the it's probably down here. Oh no, the roof shares, because we duplicated part of this, it has the same geometry. So if I scale this roof, it's going to scale from here, which is not at all what we want. So there is a fix for that. And that is if you click on the object and then object, set origin, origin to geometry, like that. And then it will put it pretty much in the center of mass. So now that is there, that's useful. And again, same with this. So the origin is useful to understand because it can really mess up things like that. So this, we know the origin point for this, if we go into isometric, we can see that the origin for our big house cube is dead center because it came from the center of the cube. So it's dead center. I now want to mirror this to be in exactly the same spot on this side of the cube house. But in order to do that, I need to use the cube as a reference, and I need to know where the geometry origin for the cube is. And because it's dead central, that's in the right spot. So if we go back over to the, click on our beam, go back over to our modifiers, and then under this menu, you have mirror. It's gone straight away, mainly because this was all centralized. If we'd done this, made this house slightly to the left, in fact, I'll show you. So let's move the house and this over to the left. Sorry, no, that's not going to do it. How am I going to explain this? I'll show you what I would do. Sometimes the symmetry doesn't work, but you need to, sometimes it's easiest to use a frame, an object for reference. So because I know this is in the middle between these two, if I wanted to, under mirror, you've got this thing, picker, and just select the cube. So it knows now wherever the cube goes, its frame of reference is in the middle. So it would always be equidistant. So that's good. Now we've mirrored that to the left. We didn't have to do much else. And we can do that with a lot of things. You do a lot of mirroring in Blender. So now I want some here as well. So I'm trying to think. We probably can't do this. If you try and do this all at once, the skin modifier will go crazy. So if you press Alt-Z, it's easier to see. No, it's more confusing. Okay, so I want here to here. So Control-click, I got that. And then Shift-D to duplicate, press Enter. P, selection to separate it. So now it's a separate selection. And we're going to do the same. In fact, let's do this first. So let's select that, what we've just separated, add another skin, and tab into edit mode, press A to select all of the vertices and edges, and then press Control A to bring it a bit more in line with that. Like that. Okay. And then we want to do the same here. So select that one, Control to select that, Shift D to duplicate, press Enter, P to separate by selection. And then we want to select it. So we'll just have to add another skin modifier to that. So back to skin, tab into edit mode, press A to guarantee we're selecting all of the vertices, Control A, and then we'll scale it down. And we shall repeat the process twice more. Control, Shift D, Enter, P, selection, tab out, select it, add a skin modifier, tab A to select all of it, Control A, bring it down, and we'll do finally one at the bottom here. Control click, Shift D, separate, Enter, P, sorry, Shift D, duplicate, then P, selection, separate it, select it, add a skin modifier, and then again tab A to select all of them, Control A to lower it, and that's 10 minutes. That's perfect timing. Okay, so now we've got a fairly good, fairly decent looking frame. We might add a few vertical, but that's enough for now. Okay, we'll add a few vertical pillars, and then we'll look at texturing. I think like some basic texturing. All right, sweet. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.